Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Elaine. Just here to make a little video discussing negative effects in video games on society, different countries, and some common misconceptions between them. To start off, I should mention that this is a rough draft. I got a lot more plans for this video. I'm gonna be adding video clips and maybe a little intro music, that kind of cool jazzy stuff. But right now, I'm just gonna record, show you that hey, I can use this website without things going haywire. I guess I should start off with societal impacts because it's not just America where this is a problem. Obviously, there's a lot more places where this kind of stuff goes on. It's a lot worse in some other places. I mean, and people they really crack down on it in different countries. Like we think we have it bad here, it gets really bad in some other places. Like to start off, I mean, first you got China, right? China, they've they've done some things to restrict violent video games and addictive video games. They've done well, the type of stuff they banned's pretty interesting. Anything capitalistic or um, opposing their regime. That's what I read on the website. Anything that opposes them, they banned it. But also another interesting thing I read was that not only did they do that, but they also restricted the amount of time every citizen can play games in that country to 2 hours a week. So about 1 hour on Saturday and Sundays when you can play games. I mean, look, that's just ridiculous. I don't know how you would even be able to control such a thing, knowing that China has such a big population of people. I mean, why do you think people are afraid to go to war with them? They're terrified. It's just jam-packed, like a sardine can in there, full of people. I don't know how you'd be able to control every single person on how long they play video games. I don't know if that's still going on. These are all countries have banned and uplifted games throughout the years. These are just examples of what certain countries have done. Next biggest one I think is Venezuela. And that one is basically since Venezuela's got a good old inflation crisis going on. They also got raised crime rates and all sorts of violence in the area, that kind of stuff. So what they tried to do to curb that is essentially ban any single video game that's got guns, violence, crimes, just anything really. That's what they do. Is they've made a major crackdown on that. Another country I find interesting to talk about is Germany, because Germany they've also banned quite a few violent shoot 'em up video games, but it seems they have a theme going on where they only ban games revolving around World War II. They really don't want to. They really don't like World War II games. They don't like uh, anything having to deal with the Nazi regime. Pretty much gets banned or altered. Like an example is Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein's a game where you play as a guy, you go around fighting Nazis. Big old shoot 'em up game where you shoot up Nazis and all that. And they actually altered it a bit in Germany because originally it's Nazis. It's most definitely Nazis. That's the whole theme is you're killing Nazis. However, in Germany, they what they did was they took out all the symbolism, Nazi symbolism, right? Like the symbol, the swastika. But not only did they do that, but there's a scene with Hitler in one of the games, and they thought the German people wouldn't be able to tell the difference if they took his mustache off. It's the same exact guy, just without the mustache. And they thought this is it. This is good. That's not Hitler. I mean, no mustache, no Hitler, I guess. I mean, there's obviously been other countries that have banned certain games. Brazil has banned certain games. Those kind of countries have banned certain games. And of course, like I said, it ranges between different countries what kind of restrictions and things they do. Like I said, countries like China, Venezuela, they try to do things. Brazil, however, Japan and America, Japan's obviously like the original game place. That's where the games originated from. Nintendo, those kind of places. That's where games have come from, and so they're pretty lenient. It says they banned some games, but that's really hard to believe with all the inappropriate games I've seen made there. I mean, it's been ever since they were just little pixel characters. It's always been inappropriate there. I mean, they've had some really inappropriate stuff. I mean, game called Animal Crossing, it's this cutesy little animal game about little characters, and you talk to little dog characters, little cat characters, and they basically they put certain racial stereotypes on certain animals in the original game. Of course, this is like the 80s. This would never fly today. But they had stereotypes on certain characters. I don't remember what they put on the donkey, but it was really bad. So they're like the original guys. And of course, America, freedom fighters. They don't ban. I don't think they've ever banned any video games there. They may have. I mean, some are controversial. And in recent years, these countries have tried to do something different. I mean, it's gotten as high as the president of the United States has talked about violence in video games. Donald Trump has made about like 2 or 3 different speeches condemning violent video games, movies, and the media. Of course, he's always going on about the media some way or another, so he's always ranting. What can I say? But I mean, I did some research into this. I did some research. Of course, I've also done an essay for English Comp talking about this kind of stuff. I've read articles about it. And so I did some personal research, because I play a lot of games. I play games every day when I get home. So I did some research. I wanted to see, what's the most popular games. Because they say violent video games are, hurting the generations, all that kind of stuff. And I want to say, hey, what are the most played games? Because I know I play games all the time. I know a good chunk of them. So I looked up, most purchased games. I was actually really surprised by it because the games. I mean, there was like a couple, but most of the top 10 games were not that violent. It was like Mario Kart, Mario Party, some Wii games. I think Animal Crossing may have been up there. It was just a lot of kids games. Of course, that makes sense. Parents buy games for their kids. They have a good time. And I imagine most adults feel the nostalgia of wanting to play those games, and so they play them. But I was mostly concerned with the top 3 games. And so when I looked it up, I wasn't that surprised. I was surprised by one. It was Tetris. Because you see, the numbers are so close together that they really can't find what is the top 3 definitively. But it's always the same 3 games. It's always Tetris, still. Man, people have been playing Tetris forever. Minecraft, which is really easy to believe, and Grand Theft Auto. Now, those 2 games aren't that bad, but Grand Theft Auto is the pinnacle of violent video games. I mean, it's almost impossible to play that game without committing a federal crime. I find it interesting in more than one way, because at the same time, it is nerve-wracking to think that one of the most purchased games and played games by people worldwide is Grand Theft Auto. A game where you're committing crimes like it's breakfast. I mean, you're just stealing cars, hurting people, that kind of thing. But then I feel like it leaves the violent video game aspect up for debate, because on one hand, you have a whole lot of people playing these violent video games where people feel that it causes violence. But on the other hand, you have, I mean, I'd like to imagine most people in the world aren't, violent mass murderers, personally. I mean, my belief personally is I feel it's more of a home life thing. I feel it's home life, how people are raised, maybe even genetics. I feel that that's it. Maybe it enhances it a bit, but I don't feel that it's the cause. It's not the root of all evil for violence in places like America and all that. Personally, I mean, so I don't think, and I've read a couple of articles. There's a lot of, I don't know, it's really heated, but I've seen a little bit more of it saying there's not a correlation than there is a correlation. However, I will say that although it doesn't make people violent mass murderers, there's certainly still a problem with video games, and that problem mostly revolves around addiction and just being stuck, utter negative mental effects on health, that kind of thing. I mean, I can agree with that. I really can. I mean, there was a point in my life where things got really tough, and I didn't talk to anyone. All I did was go home, play games all day long, and that was it. I can agree. When you're playing a game, you can get you really can get stuck in a game. I mean, you can get sucked in and not even realize how the hours are flying by. I mean, I will admit, sometimes I miss meals because of games. Sometimes I do that, and that's just like, I find that normal. It's not normal. I'm not saying it is normal. I'm saying, hey, you should skip 3 meals a day to go play Minecraft. That's not what I'm saying, but there's definitely a problem. I feel that parents, people should watch the amount of games they play. Of course, I don't play a lot as much now because I got school, I got work, I got outside school activities now, hanging out with friends, that sort of thing. But other people aren't that like that. Some people play games nonstop with no apparent, how do I put this? No need to look out for their health. It's just sit there, eat chips, and drink Mountain Dew. And I mean, I've been there, but it's not a healthy way to live. There's definitely like negative effects. I've heard people call it virtual heroin, which I think is definitely an overstatement. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's the next epidemic. I don't think it's gonna. Well, it might hurt people. I don't know. It's not that dangerous. I don't think. I just think that, in this modern world, technology-filled world we live in, that it's like the internet. You get sucked into it, and it kind of brings you down a bit because you see the world from a different view because that's all you see all day. I mean, there's definitely effects that I've read online. There's like bad eating habits, anxiety, depression, that sort of stuff. But that's not from like a normal amount of playing video games. I mean, it's like an over amount. It's like hours and hours and hours a day. It's like pretty much like half your day's gone by and that's all you've done. And I can see that. I can see that. Overall, I mean, it's a problem. It's really a problem. And I feel like it needs to be dealt with. I mean, overall, if you look at the charts, it's mostly, teens, adolescents to young adults. So I feel that parents could, restrict games. Not the 2 hours a week like China has done. Not like that much. Not like 30 minutes. I mean, like, just a bit. Just a little bit. Have your kid go out a bit. I don't know, do some errands with them, even though they're going to complain the whole time like I do. I mean, it's just overall, at least they're getting out the house. You need to I feel like mostly the problem may originate in the fact that people just use it as a babysitting tool, and that's not what you're supposed to do. It's a activity to pass the time by, but it's not a babysitting tool. So yeah, eventually, you gotta hang out with the kid. Overall, I feel like that's what the problem is, and that's what the problem is. It's not violence, it's just addiction. It's just addiction, which causes negative health effects, anxiety, depression, bad life choices, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't call sitting on the games for 10 hours a day, missing breakfast and lunch, a healthy life choice, but, I mean, to his their own. Yeah, overall, I mean, I've definitely played a lot of video games. I've been sucked into games. I got stuck on it for hours on it. It's really scary now with things like virtual reality, where you have that headset on, you have that headset on, and I mean, you forget the real world isn't that. It's crazy. It's real because I recently got one for Christmas and I was using it, and it's it's insane. I gotta say, it's cool, but it also worries me a bit because you don't realize where the real world is. You get so immersed into it that you just can't. You just don't think about what the real world's like. You feel like that's the real world, and it's just getting more advanced. There's becoming the line between the real world and the virtual world is essentially diminishing, and that's what's really scary about all that. And overall, I just feel that there needs to be a bit of restriction, and maybe game companies need to do a little more research into, you know, what kind of games kids should be playing. I mean, of course, they can't control that much of the game. The parents buy it for the kids, and I mean, if they ain't a good parent, there might be an 8-year-old playing Grand Theft Auto. I bumped into a couple of 10-year-olds playing Grand Theft Auto and thinking they're a gangster going around in their little car. But overall, parents just need to watch their kids more. Watch what the kind of games they're playing. Limit the kind of games. Well, limit the time of any game they're playing. And overall, just don't use it as a babysitting tool. Just use it. It's a fun thing to do. It's a fun thing to do. I understand. Kids get sucked in and they just hone in on it, They just hone in. Nothing else about it. They get that weird blank stare on their face where they just go brain dead and watch the screen for hours on end. But overall, you need to watch that. And that's what I feel is the point we're missing. It's not the root of all evil. It's not Satan. It's an addiction because, I mean, I will admit they're real fun, but we just gotta be careful of how much time we're spending on those games and, just touch grass. No, that's not what I mean. Not touch grass. Just go outside a bit. Spend some time with your family. Spend some time with your friends. I don't know. Go to Red Barn in the summer. Have a good time. Overall, that's what I think. That's my talk on games. It's bigger societal impact than we think about. The games that are mostly bought are pretty interesting, and I don't think it's a violent thing. I think it's an addiction thing. That's overall the point I'm trying to make. See ya.